Hello. Hi. Showbiz greeting. Yeah.
Showbiz hello,
Well, no,
because they've been talking to each other outside.
Yeah, we did say
Why did
hello.
you do that?
Yes.
That's fine.
Ah, right, okay. This is an interesting one for both of you, actually, because I mentioned earlier David started as an actor, and indeed so did Graham. How easy was the transition to writing from acting for you, David? And how did it happen?
Well, it was made easy by the fact that I was a really terrible actor. And so, in a way, the public decided for me. But I worked for about 8 years, and I worked on and off, and I was at the National Theatre, and I did bits of TV and film and stuff, but I was what they call a good company member, which is that I was like a piece of furniture that you could move around the stage, and if you had a sort of space at the back, in the gloom where you needed someone, they put me there. I did some understudying, and understudying is a really interesting job because you learn these amazing roles like Constantine in The Seagull, and I was in a production of Tom Stoppard's Arcadia, and I learned these incredible parts. And you befriend the person who gets to play them in the theatre every night, and you become great pals, and you want them to die. You want a terrible thing to happen to them. And one afternoon, it came true. I came to the theatre, and the actor hadn't turned up, and it was a matinee, and they said, "You're on in 35 minutes." And they put the costume on, and they got me ready, and I ran the lines, and I was about to go on stage, and it was in Arcadia, a beautiful play, one of the great plays, I think, of the last century, and I thought, this is it, this is my big break. And the casting people there, and the directors were there, and I could play this role. It was one of the few roles that I could play without embarrassing myself. And I was just about to go on, and the stage manager came up and said, it was a scene with, I should say this, it was a scene with Felicity Kendall, and for someone of my age, to go on stage at the National Theatre with Felicity Kendall is like some kind of crazy opium fantasy or something. It's kind of some bizarre dream. So I was literally in the wings, and the stage manager came up and said, "He's arrived." You could go, and you're allowed to demand to go on if the actor isn't there half an hour before the show. And I thought, oh, Felicity isn't going to like this. So I took the jumper off, and I walked back to my dressing room. And I thought, I really can't do this for a living. Because I knew that I saw enough amazing actors to know that they were doing something different, and that you couldn't look away from them. And people were always looking away from me. They were always covering their eyes. And so I started to look, sorry, it's a long story. I started to look for other things, and I started reading scripts for the literary department and for film companies and TV companies, and I loved reading these scripts. And I thought, this is the thing, this is the job. The person with the best job in the rehearsal room is Tom Stoppard. It's the person writing the play. And it took me a long time to actually pluck up the courage to write something. But I started to apply for jobs as a script reader for the BBC, for BBC Radio, where you read through the slush pile. And I found that fascinating. I had a choice between having a job as a script editor for BBC Radio and appearing in a Royal Shakespeare Company tour of Twelfth Night for 2 years, playing a part where I would have said one line every night. The line is, "The heart, my lord, has fled," I think. And that was it for 2 years. And I had both offers, and I made a phone call and turned down the RSC, which is something I never thought I'd do, and became a script editor. And then, through working with writers, finally plucked up courage to write myself and show it to people. Very long answer, but I still.
A good one. But a very good one.
Thank you.
And actually, Graham had the opposite happen. You did come on as not the understudy, but the person who was going to take over. You came on very early, though, didn't you? Like 5 weeks before you were meant to.
Yeah, I was doing La Cage Fall in the West End, and I had done some rehearsal. I'd learned it, and I'd learned the song stuff. But it was about 3 weeks before I was supposed to go on, and it was that weird time in between Christmas and New Year. And, so all the theatres are packed, and people had traveled a distance and everything. And Doug Hodge was playing it, was off sick. His understudy was off sick. The guy who covered him was covering the other lead who was off. So there was no way they have to cancel. And then I could see during lunch, because we were rehearsing, the producer and the director were kind of talking and looking over at me, and I thought, that's odd. And then they came over to me, and like they walked over, they looked as if one of them had maybe reversed over one of my dogs. Who's going to tell him? And they asked, would you go on tonight?
Wow.
And I said, oh, God, yes. And Terry Johnson, the director, after it happened, he said, Graham, if you'd known anything, you would have said no. But the weird thing was, it was a mistake because I never really wanted to do it again. You know, because whatever itch I wanted to scratch, that night did it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I did it, everyone, yay, well done you. And then I was like, I don't need to do that again. Why would I do that? Why would I do that every night for 4 months? But that's what I had to do.
When I started to write for television, I used to write, I thought, I'll keep my hand in just in case. And I used to write little lines and scenes for me, and I, play these little cameos. And without exception, we had to scrap the scenes. Always. Because I would just mug, I would just pull faces. And if you want to see how bad it is, if it ever comes up on television, there's a Stephen Frears film called The Deal, about the Blair Brown deal. And I have one line in it. I open the door and I say, ready when you are, Mr. Mandelson. And I close the door. And even that is, it's too much. Too less. Bring it down.
But you had a very, very successful time with Father Ted, and there's a question that refers to that. Secretly, do you wish you'd pursued a career with Father Ted rather than chat shows?
No, because like David, I'm not good enough. You see people who can really do that.
But you're very funny in Father Ted.
But Father Ted is kind of the only cool job I've ever had, and I'm so pleased to have been a part of that. But I was a competition winner to be in that, and it's like people will say to me, "Oh, do you not wish you could do kind of serious interviews or kind of one-on-one interviews?" I say, well, a bit, but other people do that. That's somebody else's job. I have the job I have, and I really like my job. So in a way, you can't live your life thinking, oh, if only I'd kept doing that. You've got to enjoy the thing you are doing.
Question for David. Was one day a bicycle safety lesson masquerading as a novel?
I did this.
There are a lot of questions actually saying, just before I say this, has anyone here not read One Day? Right, okay, this makes this tricky.
I think you can guess what happens.
There are a lot of questions saying...
You've saved them a lot of time.
You will read it, though, won't you? It's a great... You should read it. Okay, anyway, that just answered that question, because now I can't ask you about... No, okay.
We'll move on.
Come on. Let's not talk about it. It's just very good. It's very, very good. Oh, God, no, that's it again. Okay, right, questions about the film. What did you really think of the One Day film? And referring back to your Andy McDowell thing, there's things about Anne Hathaway here and her acting. What did you think about the film adaptation?
Okay, this comes up a lot. I really like it, and I wrote the script, and there's a version of that film that's 2.5 hours long, which I really love. But screenwriters always want films to be longer, and audiences always want films to be shorter. So, we cut a lot, and I regret that. But I suppose this is referring to Anne. And when we started, okay, this is the story. When we started making that film, the book was nothing. The book hadn't been released anywhere. It wasn't a big hit. It was at best a cult book. And a production company picked it up, and Anne read it, and she really loved it, and the production company wanted to make it, but no one had ever heard of this book. And so we made it for a very small amount of money, and Anne did it as a passion project, and really worked hard, and really put herself on the line for it. And I think in the film, it's absolutely brilliant. And by the time the film was ready for release, this thing had become a massive phenomenon. And suddenly we were faced with this terrible problem of how you make a novel work in a completely different medium where you don't have access to the characters' thoughts and feelings, you just have what's on screen, and how you make the film appeal to people who know it and love it dearly. And that's an impossible position to be in. So I think Anne bore the brunt of that. And it wouldn't have mattered what she did, I think. By the time the film was ready for release, people were suspicious of her. And I think if you watch the film objectively, she's really amazing in it, and all the cast are really good, and I do really like the film. But we were suddenly in the kind of middle of this whirlwind of hype and expectation, and it was very difficult for all of us because we'd made a low-budget indie film passion project, suddenly faced with all these kind of Hollywood expectations. So it was tough. It was actually a very difficult experience to adapt. And I would never, ever do it again, adapt my own work. I would always, because I think I've said this before, it's like doing your own dentistry. You need someone, with the objectivity and the kind of, and the ruthlessness to make the change, to cut things and to do what needs to be done. So it was hard, but I do love the film, and the film did really well and brought a lot of people to the book. And so I would never, I think there's always an expectation that I would go, it was ruined by terrible casting. I don't feel that at all. I think she's an amazing actor, and she did an amazing job. And she took a great risk, and I think gives a really brilliant performance. So there you go.
Good. Very fair. Slightly peeping Tom voyeuristic question here from somebody, for both of you. What do you wear when you write? I'd quite like to know who asked that and what do you think they wear? Any of us wear? God, no. I mean, you're sitting at a desk, you're typing on a computer, no, not nothing.
Do you have special gear? Because the thing is, because backstage, Dave was going, you and Claire, you're so used to this, you're broadcasters, blah, 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 blah. It's not fair. And I was like, yeah, David, but it's a book event, and you're a writer. I do feel so, I feel ridiculous in a book event, but anyway, but I did write a book.
You've written a book.
I did write a book.
And you wrote it,
I did, yeah.
I used to, at school, I used to have a thinking hat. And it was a hat that my parents had brought me back from holiday, and I was so thrilled that they brought me back something.
Claire, never tell the story aloud again.
I used to put the hat on to do revision. No, I've got school friends who are going, yes, I did. I forgot about that hat, and I should have. They're going like this, sharp. Maybe I should have.
Was there no school counsellor? Was there not a form teacher you could talk to?
I didn't even wear the hat when I was writing. Wow. Just wear jeans or whatever. I don't wear anything special.
I wear a thinking hat. I think it's the same brand.
Don't. Just mocking me. Right. Graham, is the lever really, really electronically connected to the red chair? Is it really, really? Is it?
Oh no, we're going to get a BBC fakery. Sadly, I'm afraid it's not. But the guy who does it, how good is he though? He's amazing, the guy that does it, because he never misses. It's, you know what I mean?
No, because then we'd all know, and like, I thought it was real. So.
Well, no, we'd just cut it out. We'd cut that out, you know. But he, honest to God, even if you come to the recording, he never misses. If somebody suddenly lunges for that lever, boom, they're gone. Yeah.
And some people won't touch the lever, will they?
Yeah, Tom Cruise won't touch the lever because he
doesn't know it's
he wouldn't do a bad thing. It must be in the small print. It's near the back of the book. A sort of L. Ron Hubbard addendum, yeah. But never pull a lever. No good will come of it. Yes, but the other disappointing thing is, I've actually sat in the chair, is it's really lame. Because it looks quite dramatic. But actually, you kind of go from that to that. It's a very small shift.
But it's the sound effect that makes it.
Yes, and again, that's not real either.
Great.
Well, but you know what happens at the end of his book as well, all right?
Yeah. Question for this is another one for Graham. Why is your glass of wine almost so much bigger than everyone else's drink on the Graham Norton show?
I think I've answered that question.
And there was no, I can't read that one. Sorry, David, so much that I can't read because it gives it away. Hey, what made you set one day in Edinburgh? We can reveal that. That's in the very first chapter. And obviously it's not in Edinburgh throughout.
Yeah.
But it is
I was, because, a lot of, that book again is not autobiographical. I realize I say that a lot, but a lot of it was kind of conjuring up memories. And I so happened to be in Edinburgh in the August of 1988 in a fringe production, handing out flyers. And we stayed in 20 of us in a single room in a flat on Rankeeler Street, off Nicholson Street in Edinburgh. And when you sit down to write a novel, often you do the research like you read the newspapers and you think of current events. But really, what really brings back the feeling of a time and place is your own personal experience, and is music, and is a photograph. And so I was, almost without exception in the novel, I was in the place they were in around about the summer of that particular year. So it was Edinburgh because it's a city I love, because it's a beautiful city, because I wanted the ending of the book to be romantic, and Edinburgh has this wonderful romantic sweep to it, because Edinburgh has this kind of New Town, Old Town division that seemed to sum up the difference between Dexter and Emma, and because I had experience of it at that time and place. And I don't want to sound pretentious, but it's a kind of sense memory thing. If you were there, you know what it felt like to be 21 on the verge of leaving university, kind of full of idealism, and so it was a kind of rather lazy way of summoning up a time and a place for me through personal experience, and that's why it's Edinburgh. I just think it's I think it's one of Europe's great cities, a beautiful, beautiful city.
I liked it as well that you gave them a walk up to Arthur's Seat.
Yeah, well.
Just to bring it back to walk.
Yeah.
It's a very good city walk if one's going to try city walks. There's a chapter on that.
Bringing it back, bringing it back.
Graham, final question for Graham, because I'm very conscious that people have trains to catch things, and it's so much fun, and I could do this for 4 hours, and it would just be great. I love it. But you might get, fainty and hungry. How do you cope when you have a difficult guest?
Well, it's like anyone if you have a difficult guest. It's the drunk auntie at the wedding.
Oh, yes, you've had that.
We have had that. And, and in the end, whatever happens, I do sit there thinking, well, this will end. At some point, I'll say, join me next week when and so you just do, that's the end of that.
And actually, the glorious thing about our jobs, all of our jobs, is that, if we make a mistake, it's not like we're a surgeon. Nobody's going to suddenly lose a limb or something when they shouldn't. It is retrievable. Not.
It doesn't matter, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah. It's not quite what I said, but we can make up for it. But they haven't been terrible guests. They've been wonderful guests, and I really, really thank you from the bottom of my heart to David Nicholls and Graham Norton for doing our very first event. Thank you.
Thank you.
And brilliant. And it's almost like control, because I'm going to contain your energy, because you can do one more as well for them as we walk off. But I just wanted a quick reminder. If you have enjoyed it tonight, first of all, buy their books, because that's the point, if you haven't already. And Blinkbox are sponsoring this event, and they have, some, yeah. That's why I'm saying, yes. Graham's is out in 3 weeks' time,
yes.
Isn't it?
It should be finished by then.
Us is out now. Us is out right now. In fact, came out on a Tuesday, didn't it?
Yes.
Which is very rare in the book publishing world. I don't know why, but they publish things on Thursdays. Really weird. Anyway, his came out on Tuesday, because that's how risque he is. And they are both wonderful books. And my book's been out for a while, and you can... Anyway. Sorry, one more. Sorry. That was like the end, but it's like a multiple orgasm that's going to keep going. It's quite funny. Tomorrow afternoon, Paul Merton and Danny Baker. If you want tickets to that, or you want to recommend people get tickets, then do so. You have great power as people. And tomorrow evening is Caitlin Moran and Kate Moss. You also have huge power to influence what people read and what they enjoy. So when you have read these books, if you love them, and I think you will, obviously I think you really will. Yeah, well... Then share it with the people that you think will enjoy it, because that is the biggest book-selling power in the world. It's you, it's the readers. And thank you again so much to David and to Graham, and to all of you for coming tonight. Thank you, good night.
I was buying all these new notebooks and writing in the library and in cafes and writing at dawn and writing at night.
So she kept everyone waiting. And she kept everyone waiting. And this, I've never been able to fathom how this could happen.